Hello there, hi, this is episode 13 of the Max REVS Sunday Lockdown Special. I thought we were only going to make it to 10, we had a couple more kind of lives left. This week we were saved by Kevin, we're going to feature Kevin shortly. It was only around, 13 weeks ago I shaved my head, the start of lockdown, and look how long it's gone now. This is 13 weeks of growth. Oh yeah, they're laughing guys. So without further ado, today's going to be a really interesting one. So it was kind of like Nate's idea, talking about Caymans versus 911. So thankful to Kevin, a 911 owner. It's great we're going to feature a 911 owner on this channel because, as you know, it's quite sort of Cayman focused. So I'm going to introduce Kevin, and we've got Nate as our kind of our special guest. He's our little mini celebrity here. So without further ado, there you go, Kevin. Thank you so much for joining us. You're on channel. Thank you so much, man. How you doing?
Hi everybody. Yeah, good to see you, and thanks very much.
Hey, thank you for joining us, Kevin.
Hey, absolute pleasure. Do you know, just leading on from what you said there, Max, a few minutes ago. You know, for the last 13 weeks, I've pretty much been able to join most of these, and I've really enjoyed. And I've almost been living for the Sunday nights. Admittedly, 911 owner, but you know what? I think some of the guys may have seen comments I may have made before on here, but you know what? Porsche's a Porsche, and I'm not bothered about what people have, what model they have, how old their car is, how much their car costs. My view on it is, you know what? This is one big family, and it's Porsche. Firstly, you know, it's a privilege to own a Porsche, and if you're lucky enough to have one, Porsche is a Porsche. Doesn't matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I never thought I'd be privileged enough to own one. Max and I have talked about that at length. We never thought we'd get here. So what you're saying, Kevin, is absolutely correct. It couldn't be any more correct.
Yeah. I mean, I've got to be honest. I think when I wanted to buy a Porsche, I think the reason I actually thought Cayman was because it's cheaper. And then the 911s I was looking into, it comes with like, oh my god, it's going to be that much older than the Cayman, and then there's all these issues you talk about, which I know we'll come on to. And I know people talk about ball scoring on the Cayman, but then older 911s can be even more kind of sort of I thought were more problematic, and you know.
Yeah, and that is very true indeed. And it's something that I'll touch on, you know, and I'm not going to in any way, shape or form be an expert on the ball scoring issue, but you know, leading on, if you're happy for me to lead on, guys, Max, I'll give you a bit of background on
please do.
How I came into the Porsche world. So
the only thing I want to sort of clarify, just for everyone watching it, this is a light humoured debate, so we're not actually saying this is an expression of personal opinion. This is not a scientific conclusion of like, oh my god, this is better than you. We're all mature men here, okay? So you know, this is a nice light humoured debate, and we've all got our own perspectives, and I'm loving to hear. Can't wait to hear Kevin's perspective as a 911 owner. So yes. Okay, I mean, I've got some pictures of your car, so do let me know when I'll put it up.
Yeah, by all means, you can.
There we go.
Now. Yeah,
so there we go. This is it. The picture that's on screen now is obviously in the dealership when you purchased the car.
It is indeed, that's right.
And it's looking very clean. Is it still look this clean, by the way?
Oh man, man alive! That car is. I can be a little bit anal about the car in the sense that, you know what, even if I go out to fill it up with petrol and I've got a little bit of dust on the wheels, I've got to get it off, you know. But yeah. No, joking all aside, guys. It is. She's looking as good as the day I bought it. In fact, maybe a bit better. In fact, Nate might know. There's a product you can buy from the United States called Dry Wash and Guard. Have you ever heard of that, Nate?
I have heard of it. Yeah. In fact, my son just bought some of that for his car. He bought a Mustang, a 2017 Mustang. So yes, I am familiar with the product, Kevin. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I can pretty much say that in the time I've had it, folks, which is getting on for nearly 5 years now, she's been physically washed, as in got wet, maybe a handful of times. It's just I use dry wash on it. It's phenomenal stuff. So yeah, it gives it an amazing glaze. And go ahead.
It's a godsend if you don't have access to, you know, a decent water supply, or you know, you just can't wash it as frequently as you'd like to. It's dynamite stuff. You know, the stuff they're doing with the you know, these washing soaps and whatnot, and the detail sprays and detailing equipment. It's phenomenal right now. But go ahead, Kevin. I didn't mean
No, not at all. So I don't know if Max is showing the other pictures there. So essentially, the photographs which you're seeing at the moment then was on the day that I parted with a few quid. And then the last picture, I think, if you got that there, Max, which is a side-on photograph, that was taken last year at the Silverstone Classic, which sadly, due to COVID-19 this year, we won't be able to attend. An event, however, that I would thoroughly recommend if any of you can ever make that on another occasion. So yeah, getting back to the car. So she's a Carrera 2S, 355 brake horsepower, 6-speed manual gearbox. I went for the manual.
Beautiful, Kevin. Is that steel gray?
It's actually slate grey, which was a special order paint. Yeah. So when I was looking at buying the car, the history behind the car in terms of me wanting to get a 911, it was a little bit bittersweet because I came to a bit of money from an inheritance, but ever since I was this high, I'd always wanted the 911, and it was always my dream. And I've still got a poster of an old 959 that I had in my bedroom when I was, probably 10. So, that's really quite scary now looking back, because that's 40 years ago.
Actually, speaking of that, I actually saw a really old Porsche yesterday. I'll just put that picture up on screen because, I know when we're talking about Caymans versus 911s, we haven't actually put a date on the 911s that we're going to talk about. So I think there's that aspect we can come along, which is obviously the modern 992s and going back. But was this your first Porsche, by the way? Then
it was okay. Absolutely, yeah. So
wow,
it was the first one. So as I say, the car, it's slate grey, and I specifically wanted the grey one. Now, the kind of stock colours for the greys are Meteor, Seal, or in this particular case, slate grey, which was a special order. I was also kind of toying with the idea of maybe looking at a black one, basalt black, and maybe a silver, Arctic or GT silver as well. But in any case, there was a part of me that was always being drawn to the slate grey. If you can see one, you ever get one, that would be the car to get. So my search began, and as with most things, being very new to the whole Porsche world, as I'm sure many of us have experienced, who are listening and watching tonight, that it's a bit it's a bit nerve-wracking. You've got some money, and you're probably about to spend what is probably going to be the second biggest purchase apart from your house, maybe, but you're going to buy in your life. And of course, the internet is a great thing for research. I would never knock it. It really has its place for research and understanding and everything else. But sometimes it can be a scary place as well.
Horror stories as well. I was going to follow up. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but in any case, my search started, and I was looking at the different variants, and up until, I wasn't overly au fait with the different variants until I really started getting into it. So, the 996, nice car, but do you know what? I was kind of put off a little bit by the fried egg headlights on that. And I know that for some drivers, that has been, or for some people, that's kind of has put them off, the ownership of having a 996. But having said that, there's some wonderful and beautiful 996s out there as well. But, I think life's about choices as well. And if you're in a position to get something that you want to get, then, focus on what that car looks like. So for me, the 997 was probably going to be the car I was after, only because I felt that Porsche had taken that back to the 911 roots, almost those frog-eyed lights on the front again. They'd kept the shape, and fundamentally, if you think about the Porsche anyway, the Porsche has fundamentally kept its shape throughout its entire life, which is something I really love about the car, because you compare that to other brands out there, that the Ferraris of the world, and I know there's different types of Ferraris, but every Ferrari is very, very different. There is no Ferrari that seems to have maintained its shape throughout its life, whereas the Porsche 911, it's the iconic 911 that's just kept that shape, and it has done for over 50 years now. So
right.
So moved towards the 997, and then literally just searching one evening, thought this is a fabulous, this is what I'm after, the spec, the wheels I'm after, all the kind of bits and pieces of the spec that I'm looking at. And I just hit on this car at there's an independent dealership in Coventry. Some of the guys may have known, a company called PCT. Now PCT are sadly no more, because the guys that owned the business they'd all been on the spanners since ages of 15, and they were all getting to a retirement age, and they decided that it was probably time to call it a day. But I had 3.5 years of actually making friends with those guys over the time I was having bought the car, and Anyway, this car turned up, saw it, and I rang them and I said, is there any possibility I could come and have a look at this car? And at first, you think it's the typical sales pitch. And, yeah, absolutely, you can come and have a look at the car, but just to let you know, we've got phone calls coming in this car, and I can't guarantee this car's going to be here when you get up, so you need to be here for 9 o'clock tomorrow morning just as we open. But you know what? Having met these guys, when Simon, the chap who sold me the car, was telling me, he said, we're getting phone calls for that. I get it. Because they were getting phone calls for that car. There's no doubt about it, from all over the place, Steve.
Absolutely. And you know what? First of all, Porsche, no one makes better grays and silvers than Porsche. Yeah. Those are the first cars to go. When they have a gray or silver car sitting somewhere, and God forbid it's a manual, that car will not be sitting there very long. So, you better strike while the iron's hot.
Well, absolutely, Nate.
And it's a unique colour, Kevin, because we've had some comments saying they were surprised it was not seal grey because, that's what they thought. So it must be a very kind of unique... You said it was a special order colour, so there's probably not a lot out.
It is a special order colour, and I was reliably informed at the time I bought it that slate grey, it's like chicken teeth. And, if you look on other... independent sites and stuff, you very rarely come across a slate grey one. And I've attended a lot of events around the country, and often invariably my car is the only slate grey car that will be at an event. And I've been to events where there's been 1,000+ cars, so I feel very privileged and lucky to have the car. Wow. So I wanted certain wheels, the sport wheel, I wanted PSE, I wanted the Bose. So the fact is that when it came to ticking the boxes, this car absolutely ticked the boxes. Now, I took a friend of mine along with me. Really, he was my conscience on the day, that I wasn't just signing up to something for letting my heart rule my head, so to speak. And anyway, there was a couple of other cars which I was going to look at that day, and this was the first car that I was looking at in that particular morning anyway.
Wow. So were they all 997s, by the way?
They were all 997s, okay. Absolutely. So there was a black one, and there was a silver one. Now, the silver one was at RSJ, and the black one was at 911 Virgin, in fact, as it happens, Max. So anyway, the other cars, my car had 36,000 miles on the clock. It was a 2008, so she hadn't done big miles, and she had the full service history and everything else that came along with it. The rev range had been checked, absolutely no issues with that. PCT's kind of view on buying cars was simply this: they would never buy a car or sell a car if they weren't prepared to own it themselves. So you kind of
fair enough.
Yeah, you kind of felt you were in safe hands here.
Just one question for you there, Kevin, because I bought mine from an independent specialist, and I know that we're obviously not buying new, and I probably had more faith buying my car from 911 Version as an independent specialist, because if a brand new Porsche dealership was selling that car, I would get the feeling that £25,000-35,000 car, that's nothing to them, because they're probably used to selling 60, 70, 80, £90,000 cars. So I would actually get more confidence going to a smaller independent specialist. So how did you feel with PCT?
Absolutely, exactly the same. And for me, I think an independent works that little bit harder as well, because they've got a business, they've got a reputation to keep, and it's probably very much the case as it is in the States for you, Nate. The Porsche dealerships over here. In fact, I think there's only 2 dealerships over here in the United Kingdom that are actually owned by Porsche. Yeah. The rest of them are essentially part of they're like Sytner, or they're part of a franchise of companies.
I think they're 95% private owner here at this point. So you're absolutely right. Yeah, it might even be higher than that. Very few owned by Porsche here in the States. Very few.
Indeed, and the fact is, and again, it's each their own. But this is my kind of view on it is that. I know you get this, the big reveal, and when you're buying a new car off them, then the sheet comes off, and you get the coffee and the tea, and you're well looked after and everything else. But I just felt, from my perspective, was going to be that you're just a number, and you're just another customer that's come in, bought a car, and you cleared off with it. Whereas with PCT and the independents, including RSJ and 911 Virgin, these guys were passionate about their cars, passionate about their business. And one of the things I did like about them as well is that they weren't having to sell the car to me, because the car was just selling itself.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
right.
You know,
what you say, Kevin, I can piggyback on that just a little bit. You know, I have this debate on Renlist all the time. Indy mechanics and Indy sales, you know, it's just about, they just want the business more. I don't know what it is about Porsche corporate so much.
Yeah.
You know, when they're, you know, when it's a Porsche dealership, you know, they could honestly care less about this. It seems. I don't want to paint with a broad brush.
I know.
It seems they could care less about the service or the sales experience by and large, because I guess with them it's all volume. But the little indie guy, you know, with the sales and service, I concur with what you're saying 100%.
Absolutely. And the thing is as well is that I think there's a premium also from buying a car from an OPC. And you know, that premium could be potentially 10%, maybe a little bit more in some certain circumstances. It could be less. But my feelings were very much buying from an independent, that at firstly there's a market for independents, and you know, for people like me and perhaps other guys that are listening and watching tonight, you know, I just consider myself to be kind of a Joe Public guy, you know, who admittedly lucky to have a Porsche, but just
out of interest, Kevin, we had a question come in. Did you consider private? Because I actually ruled out private because I was relying on the independent garage on doing the checks that I wasn't comfortable with.
Absolutely. Now, I do have, without going into too much detail, I do have a background in law enforcement. So, and indeed, policing the roads of Northamptonshire around here as well. So I'm fully au fait with some of the bad stuff that goes on out there with cars that are clocked, they're messed about with, and in terms of buying privately, I'm not saying, you know what, guys, I'm not saying that of course there are legitimate sellers out there, of course there are, but there's also a lot of people out there that are out there for illegitimate reasons as well. And you know what, the last thing you want is to end up buying a car, and the next thing is you're getting tapped on the door by the police saying, we've got to have that car back, and you've lost your money on it. You know, it's, I did think about private, but I just felt that, you know, I was after a warranty as well. Admittedly, it was a kind of an aftermarket warranty that I was given. But you know what? Again, my clutch went, I've got it with 36. The clutch went at 41. But that was a story. Trying to overtake somebody. I tried to go past somebody in second gear, and I got alongside them. And all of a sudden, the revs just went up. The rev limiter went to this, and this car just pulled away from me. So the clutch was slipping. So anyway,
wow.
So I got back in pretty sharpish, and I rang the independent, you know, rang PCT, and the guy said to me, Kev, just nurse her up to us, because you don't want the flywheel to go either. So just take it easy, bring it up. Anyway, you know what? The warranty company, absolutely fine. It was a crack on the plate, and they did my clutch under warranty.
That's really interesting, because I thought clutch was a wear and tear item, so that was really...
So did I. But this warranty company, they agreed to do it, and they didn't bat an eyelid to it.
Wow.
But
I'm sorry, Kevin. It's funny, just, you know, going back to your point about buying privately, that is probably, strangely enough, that's probably the safest way to buy here in the States, as long as the car has been enthusiast owned. That is probably the safest way to go. Yeah. If they're a Renlister or on some other site, or, you know, PCA, which is Porsche Club of America, 9.5 times out of 10, you're going to get a car that's in good nick, as everybody says overseas.
Sure.
You're going to get a car that's in good condition.
I mean, this might be more of a legal thing, because I guess in the UK, if something goes wrong after you've purchased from the dealership, there was some regulation brought in a few years back, which means that we've got a lot of rights here, whereas if I buy private, the minute you drive the car away, that's it, you know.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
Wow. Yeah, we don't have much protections here, you know, as far as that's concerned, but it's still strangely safer, you know, because, you know, that guy, whoever you bought it from, if he's gone through all the trouble to be members of all these different secret societies, so to speak, of Porsche ownership, this guy's not going to want his reputation ruined by, you know, you getting on a forum, that same forum, and saying, hey, this guy sold me a car he knew was lame.
Well,
Exactly.
we'll talk about ruining reputations, Kevin. So you purchased the car, and I don't know if you mentioned how many months after this the clutch went. I mean, how are you feeling around the whole? Oh my God, I've just put my money into this car, and now something's gone wrong.
Well, you know what? It was when the clutch went, I extended the warranty with the company anyway. And in fact, funnily enough, I did it there the other day because it came through the other day. So I've kept it going. But yeah, the clutch went, and initially you're thinking, oh, here we go. I mean, wear and tear. I'm going to be into potentially £1,000 here, but it's just one of those things. And again, the research sort of suggests that on average, clutches will go to about 40, maybe 50,000. But you know what, folks? I guess it's how you drive the car. And you know what? That will lead on to something I'll talk about in a minute in terms of what I call mechanical sympathy. And, if you're going to rag your car, try and do the equivalent to launch controls and all this kind of stuff. Expect to get a clutch burning out very, very quickly. But from my perspective, Max, the whole buying experience, I would thoroughly recommend going to an independent. Independents, as we say, they've got a reputation to keep, and also, conversely, if you're buying privately, coming back to the question about would I have bought privately, one of the reasons why I perhaps wouldn't buy privately, if we talk about, in terms of the vehicles themselves, is a lot of the pretty much all the independents out there will check the rev range of the car.
Right.
Now, Max, you'll probably know from your experience of buying from 911 Virgin, if you go onto their website, they've actually got a whole section about rev range. It's well worth a look, Nate, as well. Sometimes you go on 911virgin.com, and it's all about the rev range of the car. So essentially, there's kind of two clocks in the car, as I understand. One that will, tell you mileage, but there's also another clock in the car that will tell you not only how long the car's been, it will tell you hours it's been running, the actual mileage. So if the mileage on the clock says it's done 30, the mileage in the other clock could potentially say, actually, this is done 130. So your car's been played with. But the rev range was a huge thing because, again, you don't want your car over revving. There's a rev limiter for a reason.
Right.
Okay? But what the rev range obviously comes into its own when people are doing maybe 120 and try to slam it into second gear, and it just goes off the scale. Really, really interesting article. So again, for people that are buying or looking at buying a car from an independent, or buying a Porsche, doesn't matter what Porsche it is, but that is something that I think is really, really important to get checked out, is the rev range on the vehicle, because you need to know that there are tolerances within the rev range, that there are acceptable tolerances, put my teeth back in, that will be allowed. But you know what? It's a good indication as to how well your car's been driven.
It's a good indication of the dealership as well, because the first dealership I went to, I said, can I see the rev range data? And they said, you don't need that, and we don't have the tools to do that anyway, and it's all a load of nonsense.
Walk.
I walked away, yeah.
I would have walked away immediately.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, without a doubt.
Yeah. Hey, just to segue into our little debate here, just a reference to your car, Kev, I think, when the earth is all over and destroyed or whatever anybody thinks is going to happen with the earth, I think, people are going to come down and discover that the 997 was really the finest hour of Porsche. And, by default, the 987, as well.
We're getting into the juicy bits now. Just to let you know, there's a guy called Boris that's watching us, okay? And he said that when the debate starts, and I'm not saying it starts now, once we've had it roll, he wants to join towards the end to put in even his side. So I can see it getting like bubbling away already. So,
Yeah, bring him in. Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what, guys? When we start talking about the Cayman versus the 911, you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I like the Cayman. I genuinely like the Cayman. There's a pal of mine. He's probably watching this evening. He's got a Cayman. He's only one door down he's not my next door neighbour, but he's one door down from here. He's got a Cayman Gen 2 987. It's absolutely stunning. It's it's the Cayman S, the 3.4. Absolutely beautiful car. In fact, we're quite privileged in the street here, because the guy behind me, in the other property behind me, a very good friend of mine as well, he when he saw I bought a 997, he went out and bought one as well.
Right.
So
well, great minds think alike.
Yeah. So, but you know what? I'm in no way here. I'm not kind of precious about the 911. I'm here to share my experiences of it, and I'm here to hear what people have to say about their experiences of Caymans, or if anybody's driven a 911, you know, please absolutely share it. And I know we've got Nate here and of course Max to share their experiences as well. But yeah, I'm more than happy to have a chat, without a doubt.
There we go.
Absolutely.
I was just texting him saying it's a bit of a risk bringing someone live, so I just put a comment out there. Boris, if you're watching, obviously, we keep things nice and clean, because normally I actually speak to people before we go live, so it's a bit of a risk for me. So we'll do that later.
Boris will be okay, Max. He'll be all right.
Do you know him?
No, I don't know.
Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so so you had the car, you had some work done on the warranty. So it's interesting. You said you wanted a 911 as a child, because I think I just wanted like an exotic, like a supercar, like whether it's a Ferrari or a Lambo. The truth is, if I did my childhood dream, I'd probably have a Lamborghini. But you kind of realise as I got older, within my budget, I've got to get the best car that I can get. You'd probably see me in a Huracan Performante or something.
Well, no, you wouldn't, because they don't make them in manual. So.
Oh yeah. Well, that's another thing. I think I was out for a drive yesterday. We'll come back to your story, but maybe my next car would be a PDK, because I like manual. Don't get me wrong, but at some point, I just think I want to get a PDK. But your choice, Kevin. You were manual from the start. Was that definitely?
Absolutely, yeah. Perhaps I'm a bit old school. But I just like to be in control of the car, and just by virtue. I mean, I've my whole driving career has been kind of based on manual cars. Admittedly, some of the police vehicles that I will have driven will be equivalent to Tiptronic and auto boxes and stuff like that. But my own personal vehicles, all manual. And
wow.
Yeah, I just feel you're in control of the car a bit, and the car's not in control of you. That's just my opinion on it.
I don't need to sort of mention. Yeah, don't mention anything that you can't mention. But like, if you drive police vehicles, can you actually drive like the high-speed pursuit vehicles? Because I know they have BMW, like quite powerful BMWs, don't they?
X5s, BMW X5s.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Well, they're all. Pardon my language. They're all shitbox American cars over here. So that's all we get to drive is pursuit vehicles over here. So. Yeah. We're not as fortunate as you guys overseas.
Well, with Dubai have like Lambos and Ferraris and all sorts of things.
And Bugattis as well, yeah.
Really?
And of course, the guys in Germany, they drive 911s.
Oh, wow.
They're police 911s, yeah. In fact,
I'm going to apply over there.
In fact, I think, who was it? Was it Norfolk? Here's one for you. Yeah, so for the Cayman, for you guys in the Caymans, if you were to Google Cayman, I think it's Norfolk Police. They were sponsored by Porsche, I believe it was, and they were given a Cayman.
Wow!
And it's all Battenberged, and I tell you what, folks, it looks the part, big style.
You know what? Porsche's never tried to sponsor this channel by giving me a Cayman in Max REVS logo or something. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah,
you'd only accept a GT4, Max.
Yeah. You know what? I'd also take the 4.0 GTS as well. I would take that.
I would take that as well.
Yeah.
That's, I hate to say it, but that's the only thing right now that tickles my fancy, in the world right now. They're slowly going away from manuals.
Yeah.
You can only get the 992S in a manual, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I just don't know where this goes from here, so...
I know where it goes from here, Nate. Where do you think is the only correct place the engine should be in a car?
Well, apparently, Porsche has over-engineered so much in the 911 that I really can't say that with any degree of certainty at this point. They have outsmarted physics.
Yeah.
You would think that...
Sorry, Kevin. That was a bit of a cheeky little jab from me. Sorry, mate.
No, I understand. But you would think, other than a traction standpoint, there would be no advantage to have the engine over the rear wheels. Yeah. But man, has Porsche over-engineered out of that dilemma and made a fantastic automobile out of what you would believe would be a problem from the onset.
Yeah. Now, you know what, guys? I've got to say to you, mine's a 2S, okay? So, and it's got the PASM, it's got the stability control, it's got everything on it, okay? But I've only ever had probably a handful of experiences on a slightly damp road where she's twitched her bum a little bit left and right, and the stability management would kick in and it would correct it. But the biggest thing about these cars is, in fact, any car for that matter, but maybe, I don't know, maybe not for the Cayman, maybe you guys can tell me. But there's a part of me that thinks, you know something, physics, you can push physics, but you only ever push it so far.
Right. And that's a great point, Kevin, because what I've been told by people who race Caymans is that the very, very scary thing about the Cayman and the mid-engine design is that once you lose it, it's virtually impossible to get it back. Okay. Once you lose a mid-engine car, it's very difficult to get it, rein it back in. So that's almost worse for us than it is for you. Because I know there's driving techniques to get the car back into shape for a 911. We're not that fortunate.
Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, I'm going to I'll be honest with you. I've never tracked my car. I love it and value it too much. Firstly, I don't particularly. A pal of mine, he had a Panamera, and he took it around Brands Hatch. And by the time he came back, he needed 4 new tyres and a whole new set of discs and pads all round. And he went to Porsche to get it. So you can imagine what his bill was looking like. Yeah, it was heavy. But I respect my car, and I know we can track them, and I know there's a great. And again, you know what? It comes back to what you want to do on the track. If you really want to abuse your car, you can do it on the track, and it's a great, safe environment to do so as well. But I just take the view that I don't really want to be ragging my car to the point where, you know, the temperature is up over 100. You bring it to a stop and it's tinkling away, and I don't know. It's just, again, maybe I'm a bit old school. I don't know.
I feel the same way, and I've said it on here many times. I just don't want to rush using up consumables, for the car. I don't want to rush using up brake discs, brake pads, or rush the, lessen the life of the car.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, I've got one question for you. So obviously you got the 997, and obviously we're currently at the 992. So as a 911 owner, what are your thoughts on what's happened to the 911? So with me, I've got the 987 Gen 2 Sport, same as I think your neighbour. And don't get me wrong, I look up and I go, I'd love to get a GT4, 981 or 718. So with your 997, do you actually look at, aspirationally, if money was not an object? I can see you've answered the question earlier.
Yeah. Do you know something? I'm not saying I wouldn't have one, but I'm looking at that car right now, the 992, and it's getting bigger, and every variant's getting bigger.
I have no interest. And I hope that doesn't offend anyone. I just don't. I don't like the ass end of the car. It's getting too big, as you said, Kevin. The lack of manual availability, where I have to spend $30,000 more to get a manual. In the S variant, none of that's attractive to me. It's become a touring car, a grand touring car, as opposed to a sports car. And again, I don't want to alienate anybody, but these are just my opinions. Yeah, I have no interest in the 992, and that's sad for me from a Porsche enthusiast standpoint.
But on the transmission aspect, I think Stephen Winkleman, I said this for Lamborghini ages ago, because we're in a power race where the 911 keeps getting more and more power, there comes a point where you can't really actually put a manual transmission, because I think it's the torque you can damage the actual shift, and it becomes much more important to shift precisely by computer. So I think that could be a result of the whole increase in power that they always go for. Because what is it? Is it the 911 turbo? It's about, is it 600 and I've forgotten what the new brake horsepower.
Yeah, it's in the 600s.
It's huge.
But I think another famous YouTuber just tested a car, and the S was 3.3 to 60. That was supercar territory a few years ago. And I mean, on public roads, it's becoming diminishing returns now. You know what I mean? Speed's a great thing, but it's like a drug. You're always going to be chasing it,
Yeah. And you know what, folks, you might see that poster behind me there, which is it's a poster of the 911 50th anniversary edition. So that's one of the original 911s versus what was a 991. Now there's a couple of posters out there. You can find them on Google, of the rear and indeed the front of those cars. But when you get them, you talk about the size of the car. If you get the original 911 and it's on this side of the picture, and then you get and it's this size, for example, and then you move over. That. Yeah, it's like this.
It is amazing. It looks photoshopped. It's so much bigger than what the original design intent was. And I understand everything gets bigger, and that's not my fault with it. It's that, why is it so big?
Yeah,
that's more of my issue.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you explain why it had to grow so large.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it because they've got rid of one of the options, which was the wide body bit at the back? Aren't they all wide bodies now?
They're all wide.
Bodies.
Yeah,
they are.
They're all wide bodies.
So maybe that could be like financial reasons. Just it's cheaper then to make the same parts.
Yeah, but this is a company we never thought would cheap out under any circumstances. Yeah. And I understand there's bean counters in every company. I get it. But this is not a company I ever saw trending in the direction where it's trending.
I don't focus this stuff. I don't produce this material, but they're kind of Porsche owners I know, like in Europe, and whether they're Germany, Switzerland, and they're new cars, and I see some of the panel gaps on the new cars. They've been sent back to the dealerships to have them rectified. That there's a few things.
Wow, that hurt.
Yeah, there's a few things going on, I think, in terms of economics and all chasing the money. And I think I think that's just happening everywhere, to some extent. So
wow. Yeah. Wow. But it comes back to, you never thought that these things would be afflicting Porsche.
Yes.
Agreed. So absolutely. Yeah.
It's bad. It's bad.
And you know what? When we talk about the position of the engines, now again, there's a YouTube clip of a 911 Carrera S going around the ring, and there's a Cayman S that comes out behind it. It's worth a watch, folks, because I tell you what, for me, that proves about the Cayman S, when it comes to handling on bends and corners, it's all over. So they come out, they start ragging off down the road, and the 911, admittedly on the straight, is pulling away. No doubt about that. But the first time they come into a bend, you can hear the 911. He's clearly oversteering. You can hear the wheels screeching. And you know something? If that Cayman had the opportunity to get by, he would. He was right on him. I mean, he was absolutely on his rear bumper. Comes out of the bend. Of course, the 911 starts pulling away again. But again, coming up to the bends, Cayman, boof, he's right up behind him, bit of last-minute braking, and he's following him all the way through.
So, Kevin, I'm really confused now. Like, there's something I try. You seem to be sort of saying how, you're talking about some of the qualities the Cayman has. So if I can I think I get it. Would you say your 911 was the achievement of a childhood dream, first and foremost? And not necessarily like you get to a certain stage and someone goes, I've got this much money, what's the best kind of two-seater, well actually it's 4 seats for you, but what's the best sports car I can get? Would you say that you really wanted to just know that you've done something that was important to you?
Absolutely. And for me, and again, without wanting to broad brush this or it will upset anybody, for me, the 911 for me was the iconic Porsche, and that's one of the
absolutely,
and that's
no
kind of
doubt.
Why I had an opportunity and I bought it. Do you know?
Right.
But I will say, from my experiences of having driven a Cayman, I had a Cayman for a long weekend. A friend of mine actually gave me his Cayman for a long weekend, a phenomenal car. And I've driven my friends down the way here as well. And there is no doubt about it. If those cars are set up properly, as long as the Geo and everything is set up correctly, you know what? I think I'd go as far as to say it's potential 911 beater, without a doubt. GT4, without a doubt. Got it.
And I'm going to go in the opposite direction. I'm going to go in the opposite direction. If money were no object, my absolute dream Porsche is a 997.2 GT2 RS.
Oh yeah, I'm there.
Good luck.
I'm there.
Good luck finding one, regardless of how much money you have, because it's the second lowest volume Porsche ever created behind the GTRS 4.0.
Well, there's one for sale if you're.
4.0.
I can point you in the direction of a crowd over here, Nate, if you're interested. A company called JZM, another independent, very, very well known, deal with a lot of high-end Porsches, in the higher end of the market on the second hands. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they certainly did have, I think it was a left-hand drive GT2 RS, £549,000.
Wow. Oh, I'm sure.
Out of the 997.
I'm shocked it wasn't more, Kevin. I'm shocked it wasn't more. I mean, I forgot how many was produced. I just saw the figures, so excuse me. I think it was maybe 500 worldwide.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It really low volume. But if money were an object, I'd buy a Carrera T, a manual, or a GT3 Touring, and call it a day. One of those two cars would be it, and that of the modern stuff.
One of the things I'm getting from both of you, and I was thinking about this only last night when I was just having a little bottle of beer on the couch, is that do you think that you get to a certain age where you kind of go, all the new cars, they seem to be going off on some tangent and you're no longer interested in keeping up to date with them? Because Nate, we're kind of like said, we're stopping at this point in time and that was the best kind of Porsche for us ever.
That's how I feel. That puts it succinctly. That's exactly how I feel. I just believe with all the regulations and, all the stipulations that are being put on Porsche, and other automakers as well, I think we have the high watermark for enthusiast driving has come and gone. Yeah. And I think we're going back down the slope now.
And I'd bolt onto that, Nate, in that from my perspective on this is that, I mean, I've got a 16-year-old son, and he's a petrol head big time, and of course he loves the car, absolutely loves the car. But I think the younger generation of drivers that are coming forward now, it's like this. You know what? We didn't have these when we were 15. Right. So you know what I mean? 15 years old, we didn't have these things, and there's more computing power than that to put the man on the moon. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's absolutely crazy. And the way I look at it is, in terms of owning the 997, and again, why I was so attracted to the 997 was, again, perhaps it's a bit old school, but it's the last of the analogs.
Exactly. Exactly. And let me extrapolate even more. I love Top Gear, Hammond, May, and Clarkson. I love Top Gear. Probably top two my favorite programs of all time. My favorite film that they've ever done is called An Ending, when they review a V12 manual Vantage at the end of the program. And they say some things, as far as regulations and things that are going on in the car world, the relentless, going against speed and speeding, this is the end. This is the end. You'll never see an error like this.
I can see the comments here, and there's a lot of people. We seem to have touched a kind of a sensitive point, in the sense that a lot of people are agreeing with us in terms of modern cars are lacking soul, because what do you connect to? Right. You were holding up your phone. Maybe when you need to go somewhere, you just go tap, 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 and like an Uber would turn up, and you just rent your car. You never own one.
Absolutely. And something else, guys, as well, from another perspective I've got on this is, now, my everyday car is a Vauxhall Insignia, and it's my pride and joy, and I love it. But I can service that car, and within reason, I can tinker about with things. I don't touch the Porsche, and I've got an independent guy who looks after that for me. But in the main, that engine, I can see the engine first and foremost.
Right.
You try doing that on a 992 without having to take so many panels off, and you know what? The way I look at it is with this technology, I'm not knocking it. It's great. It's phenomenal. You get into it. It's like getting into a cockpit of an airplane and all this automation and all these wonderful flashy things. I don't knock it, and it has its place. But guess what? It'll have its place when it goes wrong, and you can't afford to put it right.
Well put. Yeah. Well put.
well, listen, gentlemen. I know you're going to say something, mate. I want to try to bring a bit of a heated debate here. So I mentioned something about where the engine goes in the 911. Clearly in the wrong place. I think that's kind of one point for the Cayman guys. Like, Kevin, I want you to sling a shot at the Cayman. Okay, come on, do your best now.
That's easy, Kevin.
I know. There's the most obvious one.
Yeah, you know what?
It's this.
We're coming into battle with limp powder, man. We don't have enough engine.
Well, that's the only thing that, of course, with the GT4, where they pumped up the power on that, admittedly, and again, that the car comes with a price of a bit of a premium on it. But do you know what, guys? Again, I'm going to be very reasonable and fair about this whole thing, because I come back to the point I said when we started our conversation earlier on. A Porsche is a Porsche, and you know what? I don't have anything I can really negatively say about the Cayman, if I'm honest with you. I mean, I've driven them, I admire them, I like them, and I still think, they are an amazing car. And they certainly have their place in terms of ownership. They certainly have their place in terms of following. And again, it gives people an opportunity to be able to open up the garage, to open up the garage in the morning and see that iconic badge on the bonnet. And it gives, and that's if that's ticking boxes, which it ticks boxes for all of us that have a Porsche. Doesn't matter what it is. What, Max? I'm struggling, man.
I'll tell you what. I'll go the other way.
Yeah.
I think Porsche purposefully neutered this car and made this car underpowered so as to not cannibalize 911 sales. There is no doubt in my mind that was done. Now, that doesn't take away from the brilliance of the 911. In my view, it's not the 911's fault that this was done. But I just definitely believe it was done. No question.
Do you know what, though? If you think about my Carrera S, she's 355 brake. But if you go back to a base Carrera, a 3.6, they're 325. Am I right? I think I'm right in saying that the 987 Gen 2 is 320. Is that right?
Yes, correct. Mine is.
Yes.
Yeah. So the Carrera, the Cayman S, that is, okay? Yes. So do you know what? You start putting those cars side by side at a set of traffic lights. Do you know what? There's going to be nothing in it, hardly. And I can almost prove that point on the basis that my pal, who's got he's got a Carrera, 3.6 Carrera next door to me, we've had some fun off a set of traffic lights on a couple of occasions, and there is not a lot in it, guys. Now, admittedly, where the Carrera S would probably start pulling when you start getting up into three numbers, which of course we don't do on British roads over here.
Right. Right. But it's going to blow us away once the straightaways come. Once the straightaways hit, it's going to be game over. Yeah.
You know what? A great comment that just came in. Unfortunately, which Porsche car had the 4-cylinder put inside it? Okay. I mean, would that ever happen to a 911?
No.
So that comes back to the Cayman being like we'll just put the Cayman over there, we'll put a 4-cylinder in there. Can you imagine that board meeting where they're going to go, yes, we're going to put a 4-cylinder engine in the Cayman, okay? And someone goes, yeah, we'll do the same for the 911 because it will save us money. And they all look at this guy like, are you nuts?
There would have been rioting and looting over that. Believe me. That shows that the Cayman, unfortunately, is the redheaded stepchild, because they felt comfortable enough to do that. And now I think they feel like the decision was a bad one. And again, that's not to alienate. I hope I'm not alienating anybody that owns the 4-cylinder cars. Dynamically, they are superior to anything that Max and I have. No question. But I think they are realizing the error of their ways, and they're going to try and slip that 6-cylinder back into these cars in some way, shape, or form.
And do you know what, guys, as well with the Cayman? Now, the way I look at it is that when I bought my 911, originally that car was just back in 2008 with all the extras and everything it had put on it. It was just shy of nearly £85,000. Okay. I bought it. What was she? So I got it in 2015. So she was just turning 7. I bought it for £34,000. So
wow, that's a steal.
Absolute steal. But this is the point I'm going to make, though, Nate. That I think Porsche have done the right thing in terms of not making their cars untouchable. Because I wouldn't have been able to afford to have bought that car at $85,000. Admittedly, now that things have moved slightly back and the residual value has been kicked out of it, I think that in respect of like the Cayman, admittedly we know the Cayman is invariably a cheaper car than the 911 anyway, but it makes the car affordable for Joe Publics like us.
I agree with that, but who's setting the market? Is it us enthusiasts? or is it, Porsche with all these limited editions? And, I understand we're not buying the limited edition cars, but that kind of stuff trickles down because you say, well, I can't afford the limited edition car. All right, well, let me buy something similar. So who's setting the market there?
Well, you know what? I think it's dictated by build number. So, Kevin, did you say yours was a 2008 car?
Mine's a 2008. Yeah. So she was the very, literally the very last of the Gen 1s.
So, the book that I was reading at the moment, they said, so for the Caymans anyway, obviously there was a financial kind of like the crisis was going on right here, and the only Porsches that were really selling in numbers, even less than normal, were the 911s. The Cayman really took a hit because, like, what it kind of said is the people that can afford a 911, generally speaking, and I know this is a big average, if you can afford a new 911, when bad things happen to the economy, you kind of get affected, but you can still kind of squeeze it in if you have to. And I know that's a big sweeping statement, but by and large, those cars sell. But the Caymans and the Boxers that were launched, that's at the other end of the market. So when bad things happen with the economy, those buyers just retreat. So I think in terms of numbers that are out there, we'd have to look at the production figures. And I think with the Cayman, because there were so few that were sold into the marketplace, that's pretty much, I think, it's just the supply and demand to come back to what you're saying, Nate. And I think turnover as well. There's a lot of guys now realising how good these cars are, and they don't come up as often as your average Vauxhall Insignia, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I sent you the North American sales figures. I thought I had the global sales figures, and I apologize for that, Max. But I sent you the North American sales figures of my 2010, for example. I'm one of 600 examples here in North America. That's it.
Wow.
That's it. So your data is absolutely right, Max. When the bottom falls out, it's the lesser car that suffers, or the perceived lesser car that suffers the most. No doubt about it.
Right, so listen, guys, I'm changing track now. I think the Caymans I've got 2 kids, okay? And the really crap thing about the Cayman, it's only got 2 seats. I can't take my kids out. I've got to take the family car. So I think the 911 is more practical. That, as a man that kind of had whether you want to call it a midlife crisis, I had young kids, it would be quite nice to say, kids, do you want some ice cream? Let's go out in the car, take them with me. I can do that with my 911. I can't do that with a Cayman. So, what have you got to say about that, Nate? I know you've got kids.
911, clear advantage.
Yeah.
And I'm suffering from that right now because before we started the live feed, you saw my 2-year-old, and I would really love to take him for a ride in the Cayman, and I simply can't, unless I get, we talked about having that airbag deactivated in the front, and, it really is, it's not a good situation. So I have to take him in my Honda Accord, which I find one of the most boring vehicles to drive on God's green earth after I've driven my Cayman, or I want to drive the Cayman. So it's not a great situation, but that is clearly advantage 911 in that regard.
Yeah. Okay, you know what? Yes. Now you might think that, but let me share with you that now I'm certainly not the tallest man in the world by any stretch, but going back until my son now, he's 16, he's got to be 6 foot something now. I couldn't put him in the back of the 911. And even if I did put him in the back of the 911, it means I've got to pull my seat right up to the front now, which is making, my seating position now uncomfortable and just not how you're kind of used to. And the same if, for example, if my wife was in the passenger seat, or I've got someone else in the passenger seat, they've got to move their seat right up. So kids, absolutely, youngsters up to the age of maybe 10, 11, 12, and they're not overly big or whatever. But putting an adult in the back of the 911, you know what? If you've got 2 big guys in the back of the 911, well, one it's going to be it's going to be uncomfortable for everybody. And I tell you what's more, they're going to be sat there like this. It's, and the seat at the back is, it's very, very low. So you're actually quite exposed at the back in terms of any security. And, if you got thumped at the back or you took a head on in the front, I would expect there to be significant, whiplash injuries in the back as well.
Actually, Kevin, what's the visibility like? If you've got 2 people in the back, like your son sounds quite tall, you can't see out the back.
It's not great. No, it's not great. Because and the trouble is with the majority of people who've ever sat in the back of it anyway, they're all trying to lean over to see what you're doing, so you can't see anything out anyway.
Well, one clear advantage the Cayman has on the 911 is 2 very robust storage areas. You can get a lot of stuff in both areas. If you fancy loading your Cayman up with stuff, which, I haven't had to do on too many occasions. But the fact that you can is a real luxury. I mean, that front area, I mean, you can literally sit a human being in that frunk.
Yeah.
Same as the 911, and I know when you guys put your rear seats down, it's quite a bit of storage area back there too. But
that's right. But it's exposed. It's exposed as well, though. That's the trouble. If you go anywhere or leave the car anywhere, so it's exposed.
Let's talk about curb appeal, okay? So what Kevin and I need to do, we need to sort of go to some swanky country club, park, and you know that parking when you go to a hotel is always like round the corner or something. We're going to drive up to the front of a 5-star hotel, and we'll just say, can we park our car here? We'll do it in a Cayman and a 911. Which one do you think's got more chance of being parked in the front of a hotel?
Wow.
I think I don't kind of appeal to this stuff, but I think there's a certain element of like the 911 owners more well-to-do, more kind of classy, whatever. I think I don't know what happens in the US here, but there's always this. The people
I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
I think in the States it's a toss-up because your average valet guy doesn't know the difference between a Cayman and a 911.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
I think it's going to be a toss-up. Nobody knows what they're looking at.
Fair point. Yeah, I don't know.
You've got to give it some more, man. Give us some punches, man. Come on.
No, you know what? Honestly, I come back to my point again. I wouldn't rule out having a Cayman. If I had, I just think they're a great looking car. And Nate's raised some real positives about the car as well, and I've heard the positives as we've been going along over the weeks we've been doing this. There's no doubt about it, but you know what, I think it comes down to just individual choice as well. It's what ticks the box, and again, guys, the Porsche is the Porsche. It's horses for courses as well. It's what you want.
Yeah. I agree, Kevin, but again, we started this debate, last week is that, me saying that, there's still people, that don't think the way you do, Kevin, as there's 911 owners, I've been to Cars and Coffee and, they may not say anything, but you could see in their face, like, who let that guy in here? You know what I mean? Like, like, and we have the same badge on our cars, and, it can be disheartening, but when you know what you are and you know what you bought, probably better than they do, it makes it all the more better,
Absolutely. And as I said, I've attended a number of events around the UK here, and in fact, any of the UK listeners, and I'd certainly recommend it for yourself, Max. There's a fantastic event which is run by the Porsche Club in conjunction with Porsche Chester, which is Porsche on the Prom in Llandudno, North Wales. And whilst they didn't do it this year due to COVID, we had it was in excess of 1,000 cars turned up on a Prom in Llandudno. I'll have to send you the link so you guys can see it. And it's absolutely phenomenal. So they have cars parked on both sides of the Prom. And I think it went on for about 1.5 miles, just car after car after car after car. And you know what? The event is absolutely phenomenal because you have people turning up from all over the country. You don't have to be a Porsche UK member to be a member of it. So any of the guys that are watching here this evening, if you're interested in coming along next year, it's generally the weekend, the second or third weekend of May. Every car is there. You name it, it's there. From barn finds to, as we had last year, some guy turn up. He just literally collected the day before in his GT2 RS. So his 911.
A GT2 oh my god. Geez.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And this guy was clearly dripping money in every way, shape, and form. But you know what? He was the most unassuming guy you could ever want to meet. He was allowing my lad to sit in the car. He was talking to people about it. He wasn't in any way kind of ostentatious about the car. I mean, let's be honest, it's quite an ostentatious car to have, but he wasn't in any way kind of big-headed or anything about it. And I think whatever when you have the privilege of owning a car or of this kind of mark, whether it be Ferrari, Aston Martin, Bentley, I think it's always going to attract a certain element of people that they're absolutely dripping with money, and money is no object to them. And the car is almost like it's just my everyday runaround almost. You know?
Right. And I think that's a testament to the brand. The Cayman could be that as well. I don't use it as such because, just by the nature of where I live, I just can't.
Sure.
But I think that's just a testament of the brand that these can be your everything car if you so desire.
Absolutely.
So Nate, I'm going to have to put you in that situation. I want 1 point from you where the 911 wins out over the Cayman and you can't say power.
Oh, wow. Traction over the rear wheels.
On the two-wheel drive 911, yeah?
Yes.
That's a really good point.
Driving out of corners, putting the power down out of a corner. Yeah, the 911 has it hands down. It's not even close. That's a good one. That's a good one. And let me offer this point. If you put a good driver in a Cayman and a bad driver in a 911, yeah, he'll edge out the 911 guy.
For sure.
Every time. But I think all things being equal, we're just not going to win too many of those races. And I think that was by Porsche design. It was by Porsche design. And it's unfortunate.
There's a part of me that's nodding.
Right. Yeah, you know it, Kevin. It reminds me of the story of a few years ago. Volkswagen had a chance to bring the Scirocco, the latest Scirocco that you guys got, over here to the States. And they chose not to because it was basically the same platform as the Golf. And they didn't want to cannibalize Golf sales here in America. They didn't want to, cannibalize that dynamic, that sale. And we all wanted the Scirocco here in the States. And I think it's the same basic principle with the Cayman and the 911. So how does Porsche thwart that? They say, all right, well, we're not going to give you as much in the Cayman as you're going to get. We don't even get 5 dials in the Cayman. You guys get 5 dials. We get 3 dials. We got to be happy with that.
But listen, the book I was reading, when the first Cayman was launched in the US, you got default options that we don't get. I think it was HomeLink. There's 2 other things. They were just standard on all Caymans, and we had to option them.
Yes, because I have that and don't use it.
Yeah, so when we say we don't have HomeLink, you guys are like, what are you talking about?
Right, yeah. I have it and don't use it, so... it is what it is. I don't have a garage door opener and all that other stuff that would work along with that. So,
there's some comments from a few guys. We featured Jace last week. So he's putting an Audi R8 into his Cayman. So that car, that just kills the whole power thing, which I think is the biggest thing that you guys win on. So,
Right, but why should you have to go to that kind
That is true. I think he said he had to fit the engine 8 times to get it to fit into the car. So that's a lot of work.
Well, you talking about power and performance as well, then this will be interesting. I'd like to know what Nate's and your stance on this, Max, and of course all the other guys that might be listening in. So it'd be really interesting to know what the comments are on this. Miles per gallon. Now, I've got a 3.8. Now, the best I've had out of mine, according to the trip computer, is going from where I live here in Northamptonshire all the way to Llandudno in North Wales. Now, I pinned it. Admittedly, it was motorway driving, so it was on the M1, M6, M56 across to North Wales. I pinned it on 75, didn't rag it, just nice and gently through the gears. When I arrived in Llandudno, 34.1 miles to the gallon she was averaging.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
And considering I have a 2.9, which is much smaller than your engine, and if I baby her, drive like Miss Daisy, I'm only getting maybe 31 mpg.
But Nate, don't forget, it's a 2008 car, so there must be an electrical fault with that sensor in his car. That is phenomenal economy, though.
That is beyond phenomenal. I think that's a thing that Porsche doesn't get as much credit as they should get with these cars, is actually how fuel efficient they are. And I think we touched on this a few episodes ago Max, that these cars are surprisingly fuel efficient.
Yeah,
they are.
It's a very good topic, because I think prior to this I had a Jaguar V8, and I think whether you like ragged it or took it gentle, it just drank gas like anything.
Absolutely.
So I think I had a track day in it once. I think it was like I got 8 miles a gallon on the track, but otherwise you're probably getting about like 18, 19, 20. The Cayman, or even the 911, it gives us both. If you want to cruise on the motorway and go somewhere, you can save a few quid on fuel. But if you want to keep it in that high gear and take a few country roads, it gives you the ability to choose what you want to do.
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Go ahead, Kevin. I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. I was just going to bolt on to myself and my buddy here. We went out to over to the East Coast last Saturday for a drive out. So he took his Carrera with him, and I took mine out, of course. And we'd tank the fuel, so would fuel the cars up. And again, even on that run over there, it was a bit spirited here and there. No doubt about that. But my average was around the 28.7 miles to the gallon. But my son came out with a fantastic one. I said, "Hey, John," I said, "look at this for MPG." He says, "Dad, I'm not interested in that. I'm more interested in the SPG." And I went, I'm driving along and says, "What are you talking about?" He goes,
"Miles per gallon."
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm with your son there, because my Cayman's not a daily driver. So to be honest, I actually feel maybe people are gonna think bad of this, but when I get a low MPG, it's usually because I've had a good time. And I don't feel bad about that in the sense that you get these other like SUVs, 2.5 ton diesel wagons or something, and carrying all that dead weight. We're kind of a light car, so I don't feel too bad that on the few days I use my car and I don't get good fuel economy. I don't think I'm like destroying the planet when I see all the other stuff going out there.
Well, no, I'm only averaging, the way I drive, I'm only averaging about 22 in very mixed driving, but I do drive spirited. That's what these cars are for, and you only live once.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking of fuel and fuel economy, be interesting to know maybe if there's any feedback from the guys who might be watching now in terms of the fuel that they use. So when I bought my car, the day I was buying it, the chap he was selling to me, Simon, he says, "Kev," he said, "out of interest, where do you get your fuel?" And I said, "Well, I go to Tesco's or yeah.
Oh, for the Vauxhall, for the Vauxhall.
Well, actually, to be fair, he said, "You know what? You probably want to consider changing that." And I went, "Well, it's good fuel, and it's reasonable." He goes, "It's cheap for a reason." So he said, "So my advice to you would be to use Shell V-Power or SO's, their premium as well." And to this day, since the day I've had that car, she's had nothing. Probably had more tanks of V-Power in it. I mean, I have started using SO, a bit of a plug for the 911 UK club, but you can get a card which gets you discount about 2 or 3p a litre off.
Will it focus on that? There you go. Yeah. It's the only fuel. It's the only fuel.
But yeah, he was saying that there's no doubt about it. These premium fuels, you might pay the extra for the premium, for the privilege of being able to get that fuel, but it's quality. It's quality.
Yeah, Shell V-Power is the best thing you can get here in the States. Unfortunately, there's so few stations, though.
Really?
Shells are probably, for every 10 of everybody else's station, there's probably 2 Shell stations.
But then, Nate, I mean, are there other places, like whether it's like Chevron or Mobil, can you get 99 octane fuel there?
No, our RON system is different. Your RON system is different than our octane system. Yeah, that we discussed. So we deal with octane rating over here. 93 is the best fuel you can possibly buy here in the United States. And I think that's equal to your 98 RON. Your 98 RON number.
Yeah.
That's the best stuff. That's tip-top stuff that you can buy over here. Of course, I don't buy anything but the 93 or the 98.
Correct. There's only one fuel to put into your car. And I think in the UK, I mean, whenever we do a road trip with guys, we all have to plan it around where the Shell stations are.
Yeah, but that can be tricky stuff here in the States because they're just so few and far between over here, man. Wow. And they're always 10, 20 cents, 50 cents more expensive.
Whoa. So we've just had a comment come in from Richard, and he goes, "Porsche Club Great Britain recommend SO because of the lower ethanol content."
That's right.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But what's the benefit of that? Isn't ethanol the bit that...
No, ethanol is an alcohol-based fuel, and it's just not, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, it's not good for the overall life of the car. It's safe for the car, but it's not good for the car. If you could choose no ethanol, choose that. If that's one of your choices, choose no ethanol. Yeah, they're trying to make 15% the mandate over here in the States. 15% ethanol, and we are fighting it tooth and nail because it's going to degrade the fuel systems in our cars that are not totally prepared for it. I think it's a big deal.
You know what? I've got a couple of guys chomping on the bit here. So I mean, Kevin, this is pretty much your video. Are there some topics you want to cover before I try and do this live experimentation and get Boris on?
Yeah, I just perhaps thought it might be worth sharing some of the issues with the 911 Gen 1 in particular.
Yes, please. Yeah.
A common problem with the 911 was the bore scoring problem. Yeah. So I did a little bit of research on this, and at the time, my independent, ordinarily they would recommend Porsche would order. I think is it zero? I can't remember what the oil. Is it 010 or 040 for the
911? Oh, for 911, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I maybe somebody might.
For the Cayman, it's 5W40.
5W40, right? I think it might well be something similar for that for the 911 997. However, my independents, and to this day, even though I take it to my independent now, I still ask for 1060, and I'm running 1060 on it. I've run it. It's been run on 1060.
That's BMW Motorsport weight oil.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Apparently it's Lamborghini and Ferraris as well. Some independents will be putting that in theirs. Yeah, it's so. And one of the reasons for that is slightly thicker, but also just in terms of keeping everything in tip-top.
It's very thick and takes a long time to warm up and circulate. So be careful. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. So this comes back to a couple of the other. We talk about bore scoring. So I did a little bit of research on this, and I've got my notes that are right here. So I'll just paraphrase them. But of the 100, so from 2004 to 2008, there were 106,000 997s came off the production line in Germany, and of course they were a worldwide distribution. Now there's that includes the 2-wheel variant and of course the 4-wheel variant as well, the 4-wheel drive variant.
Yes.
There's a very highly respected chappie over here by the name of Peter Morgan, he's well known in the Porsche fields. He's an inspector, and he went on record saying that of those 106,000, in his view, he said only 5% would be affected by a potential bore scoring problem. Now I know that when my car has been scoped, and there are absolutely no issues with that. She doesn't drink oil, doesn't touch it. It's phenomenal. But I know there are problems out there with as far as bore scoring is concerned. Now, it's kind of one of those things where I think with people that have a 911 who are unfortunate enough to have it, there is an immediate fallback position of, oh my God, I've got to get my engine rebuilt. But there's a forum I'm on called 911 UK, really interesting, and bore score comes up every so often. And there was a guy made a really valid comment there. He said, "Look, how much oil is your car using?" This chap was complaining that he thought he had potential bore scoring problem. How much is it using? Oh well, I'm probably losing maybe 3 or 4 liters every 3,000 miles. And he said, well, look, what you've got to ask yourself is, how much fun are you getting out of the car?
Absolutely.
Versus topping up with a bit of oil every so often versus a 10 grand rebuild. So, I'm not saying that it doesn't have its place. The rebuilds don't have its place. And there's a well-known company over here that does rebuilds, Hardtech, very, very good. And everybody will say, oh, if you've got to get a 997 Gen 1, make sure it's a Hardtech rebuild. Right. Well, you know what, folks? I would be if I was in the event I was to sell my car, I would be very, very confident. If anybody came to do an inspection of that car, it's going to be a clean whistle.
I think you've touched upon a psychological issue, because my personality type is that if I knew that my car had was drinking that amount of oil, okay, yes, it's cheaper to just top it up with oil all along, but there's a part of me that knows that my car's not operating as it should do. So when my coolant hoses were leaking, I didn't just get the one that was leaking replaced. I kind of got them all replaced. So I think some people that go, right, I'm going to go do an engine rebuild. It might be because they just want to get their car back to normal. But I do take your point. You know, you could just live with it and top it up. I do get that.
Yeah, and again, sorry, Nate, go ahead.
No, I was just going to chime in and say, and you know, this is an area where I think Porsche does kind of catch a very bad break, you know, but I do understand the people that have been left stranded. I definitely get that. You know, these cars are too expensive to have known faults, quote unquote. But this is where I think Porsche catches a bad break because everything's in a vacuum. Every manufacturer has some type of deficiency. Every engine, every car, every manufacturer has some type of deficiency. It's just so amplified in the Porsche world. And that's where I think it's a little bit unfair to Porsche, a little bit, you know. So I don't know how you guys feel about that. But, you know, the forums are wrought with this, you know, the guys that have been burned, and I understand that. Yeah. I get it. But, you know, I think they get so much of an unfair shake, especially with those numbers that you just illustrated, Kev, where it's 5%. Whereas other automobile manufacturers, 20% of their cars are falling down daily. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, you know, I just think it you know, Porsche catches it more than they probably should.
And some other advice I was given, and I came back and I come back to a point I made earlier on, and I used the word, you know, mechanical sympathy. Right. So it is about, you know, when I bought my car, and again, Simon, you know, great advice. He said, Kev, just out of interest, you know, what do you do in the mornings? When you get into your car, what do you do? I said, well, I started off on a drive off. He goes, good. He said, because don't sit there, don't start her up and just sit there, faffing around with your phone, you know, combing your hair, whatever, putting the makeup on, whatever it might be. He said, just get in the car and drive. He said, because these cars don't like sitting around when they're running. He said they've got to warm up. They've got to be driven again with mechanical sympathy. Don't take her over 3,000 RPM until you know your oil and your water are where they need to be.
Which is longer for you because you're running that thicker oil that Nate was mentioning.
Right. It's no big deal. You know, it's as I say, I look at it and I just think to myself, well, when I get up in the morning, I certainly don't feel like, you know, running at 1,000, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 revs and running down the stairs and running up the stairs because, you know what, I've just got up and I'm feeling a bit groggy. Well, I just think my car the same way.
Did the 997 ever suffer from the shifter cable snapping issue? Because like, I was going to say, it's a Cayman. I know the 996 did it. Okay, I would say people should talk more about those cables snapping than ball scoring.
Yeah, they
agree.
They have had a problem. And indeed, my good friend just a couple of doors down had the unfortunate experience of being in the middle of nowhere with his son in the middle of Yorkshire somewhere, and he went to change gear up a hill and ping, it went.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It wasn't great.
Now that I will say shame on Porsche because they do know most definitely that's a known fault. And that should always be goodwill.
I'll tell you where I'm feeling a bit ropey. My new shifter cables were only installed about a year ago, and I had a drive yesterday, and as I was shifting into fifth gear, it was on the motorway, I could feel that, you know, like, I didn't want to be too gentle with it, but I shifted into fifth, and I kind of just felt like the cables have all loosened up, because I remember how my car felt when the cables were new, and the shift was quite rifle bolt like, but I feel that now the cables have stretched a little bit and I've lost a bit of precision. So, you know, I was just thinking if the cables are stretching a bit, you know, is it just a matter of time until it happens again? So I'm not happy about that thing.
Remember, this is not an if scenario, it's when with these cables.
That's right.
And it's a very poor design.
Well,
poor design, and shame on Porsche for that.
Well, I spoke to my independent straight away, and I rang him on behalf of my pal, and I said, you know, this is the story, and he straight away goes, that's the cables. He said, I guarantee you that is the cables have gone on that, and you know, lucky for him, they got it back on a flatbed to Porsche, and here not a million miles away from us here, and they did it under warranty without any problem.
Wow.
So
right.
Yeah. So,
Right.
But yeah, you know, as I say, you know, I think if we all look after our cars and treat them with a bit of mechanical sympathy when we're warming them up properly, you know, yeah, you're absolutely right, Nate, and I get it, and I agree with you. Yeah, they're there to be driven, and they're there to be driven hard, but not from the start, because there's
absolutely not.
There's a guy who I work with, and he from work to where he lives, he's got a 997.1. And his rear exhaust pipes on the left-hand side are just black. And I said to him, is that drinking oil? Oh, yeah, it drinks a bit of oil. Are you bore scored? Oh, you must be joking. No, it's not bore scored. And I'm thinking, that's bore scored, because
that absolutely is bore scoring. He absolutely, unequivocally is bore scoring. You have one tailpipe that has that much soot coming out of it.
There's no doubt about it. And I'll tell you what, he lives 3 miles away from where he works, and I will often be going down this dual carriageway, and he will come past me like I'm standing still. His car's only been on the road less than a minute and a half, if that. It's not even warm.
Right.
You know, wow. So he's looking at problems. He's going to have problems. But
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. And then, so, you know, and apart from that, guys, I suppose, you know, there was the infamous IMS bearing problem, but luckily for me, having a 2008 model, that was rectified. That's no longer a big issue, so I'm fortunate from that perspective.
Well, you had the larger, more robust bearing.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
And I've also had
that failure rate is like 1%.
That's right. And I've also had a low thermostat, a low temperature thermostat put in it as well.
Good.
So
good, man. You absolutely know what you're doing. This is how Porsche ownership should be done.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm as I said, you know, I look out for the things, like when I roll her out the garage, I have a quick look to make sure there's no leaks, there's nothing on the floor it shouldn't be. All these kind of things I'm generally having a look out for. But as I say, I've got a very, very simple philosophy in car ownership, and I don't care what car it is. It goes for my wife's car, it goes for my Insignia, it goes for the 911. If you look after a car will look after you.
I agree.
I like that.
I agree. Yeah. I agree.
You know.
I agree. Unless it's American. I'm sorry. I don't want to offend anybody out there. I apologize. I couldn't help myself. I apologize.
Dear. Well, listen. I might try and get Boris in. So I'm not sure if he's on the 911 camp or the Cayman camp, but I thought it's always fun here. This, you know, like we discussed before we went live that these Sundays are kind of like us just sitting in our living rooms having a quick drink with someone who are like mates and stuff. So, you know, it's great that we can do this thing. So trouble with trying to do all this stuff live. I just don't want to end up doing anything that damages this call, so it all drops out. So I'll try and maybe see if we can bring Boris on. But, you know, I've got to say, this is brilliant. Kevin, you saved us with this 13th episode.
No,
so, you know, as it stands, if they can go on, they can go on. But as it stands at the moment, there is no one to feature next week. So that's why I keep saying this.
That's what you said 3 weeks ago.
Come on. Yeah. Who's going to be on next week?
I know I've got somebody. I tried to get hold of this chap, and I won't mention names at the moment because it'll be unfair. But this guy, he's big on forums, and he does an awful lot of stuff on Porsche cars across the piece. I think he's quite fortunate. He seems to get a lot of cars from Porsche, and they give him to him, and he goes and test drive them. And he has a drone.
Wow.
And he talks about cars all day long, all Porsches. And I'm going to see if I can get him on next.
Get him!
Oh,
get him!
Wow!
Because he did a link last week on his forum on the GT4. And so I think he'd be good to come and get him on board. I would say he'd be probably up for it. He's, you know, he does videos.
So he's a Porsche owner himself as well.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is.
Wow.
And he's not adverse to do public speaking and stuff. So I'll see if I can get him next week.
Nice.
No promises, folks, but I'll see what I can do.
Understood.
Okay?
Well, there you go. Well, listen, I'm going to try and bring in Boris. Okay, so this is all trying technology. So I mean, you can still try and say. Talk amongst yourselves is what they say. Well, and I'm going to make sure I don't drop the call, because I remember the very first time I tried to bring somebody on. I can't remember, but Nate wasn't on. It was just me and someone else, and I think we brought Nate on, and it went nuts. The camera angles were all. It was the first time I brought anyone on live. So Boris, I hope you're ready, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to try and reach out to you. You guys talk amongst yourselves for about a minute, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
So, Kevin, as far as I'm concerned, these Porsches only have a handful of issues that, you know, are, and they're all ancillary issues. Water pumps, air oil separators, and, you know, some other miscellaneous things. The engines are fantastic.
They're bulletproof, pretty much.
Works of art. They're masterpieces. You know, as long as you're not having, you know, the bore scoring and some of the other things that we've mentioned. Would you agree?
Well, I absolutely agree with you, Nate. And you know, at the end of the day, when you're dealing with anything mechanical, you know, you can expect things to not go as it should do. You know, I'm not saying that that's in every particular case, but you know, mechanical issues they're going to pop up, they're going to come about, and that's just the life of engines. You know, there's nothing, a whole lot you can do about it.
And as I was alluding to earlier, that's the life of any manufacturer, really. You know, and it honestly, their problems may be more pronounced than Porsche.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just that Porsche gets all the press. You know.
Yeah, indeed. Hey.
Here's Boris.
Hey,
okay,
Boris.
I need to bring him up on screen now. So there we go. So you guys can see him, but let's see.
Yeah. Welcome to the Corona country. Welcome to the Corona country still.
Country.
I'm going to add you all in one by one. So Boris, which country are you from?
Yeah, so let me just try to stop this because I don't hear you quite well on the Skype.
Okay, so we can see you. So you know what? Actually, 4 is a good number because we can all fit on screen and have our own little kind of little screen. So yes, thank you so much for welcoming us. So maybe if you could just give us. I think the lights turned off, by the way, so we can't really see your face too much. But I guess.
Am I there? So.
That's better, Boris. That's better.
Yeah, we can't really see your face because it's very dark. But anyway, maybe if you could give us a quick introduction, which car you own and which kind of Cayman 911 you want to kind of go for.
So, guys, basically, I hope you hear me. Oh,
we can. Yeah,
I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm a professional racing driver for the last 15 years. So. I mainly do last, let's say, I don't know, last years, since 2000 and sort of 10. That was my first professional contract. So I work now with the Porsche customer team and LNP 3 teams. And I live in Luxembourg right now at the moment. And origin-wise, I'm from Bosnia. So... Bosnia and Herzegovina, ex-Yugoslavia, if you know.
Yes.
Sorry for my math, but I need to keep this up because Luxembourg right now is under siege regarding this.
Okay.
Wow.
So, yeah. Basically, I can pay a fee if I don't have it over my nose and over my mouth.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, yeah.
This is unbelievable. A professional racing. So this is. Nate. No offense. Nate used to be our mini celebrity, but I'm putting him away in the corner now. You are now the new current celebrity of this channel. That's amazing.
No. Yeah.
I'm glad you've been dethroned.
Yeah. No one is unthrown in our sport, so we're all the same.
But we all love joking, but one thing, as a professional racing driver, you can really speak about the handling of the car, how it puts the power down through the corners. So this is phenomenal. I mean, so the fact, did you mention you're affiliated with Porsche as a racing driver?
Basically, I'm affiliated with mainly with the customer teams. So you basically know the customer teams are the private teams who own the Porsche cars, running different cups as a Super Cup, German Carrera Cup, or Carrera Cup in Italy, or Endurance Series, such as private series as Preventic, 24-hour Dubai, and similar things.
Wow.
So I basically go and I do a lot of things, you know. I had an interview a couple of days ago when they asked me, like, what is your job? And I'm like, okay, look, if someone asked me to put the tires on and clean the rims, I'm in. So basically, from the smallest jobs in the team up to me driving the car as a professional for the team. So
I love that,
awesome.
because you know what, that makes me feel you as a driver can bond and mechanically appreciate everything in the car, where some drivers, the race team does all the prep, they just kind of sit in the car and they do their racing bit. But I feel that on a psychological level in your head, you can really, I think the best drivers, and I think these are from the films in Le Mans and so on, it's a psychological thing, it's a mind game, you know. It's not so much just being the best driver, knowing the best racing line. If you can really connect with the car and understand what it's doing, I mean, that's phenomenal.
Well, look, for a professional racing driver, it's only one thing. You need to understand one most important thing. That's there is always someone quicker than you, okay? And there is always someone better than you. So if you have a privilege to earn your salary, and you have a privilege to earn your pension or health fund, how you say, like your contributions paid to the government by the company that pays you, you should appreciate that from the day one. And then everything what comes on the top, you should do your best and learn basically every day. Because I'm in this sport 16 years. I have 13 championship titles in the sport. And what that means today, nothing. Tomorrow, what it means, nothing.
It means a lot to me. So, you know, the guys on this channel, we appreciate what has happened and what is, you know, sometimes it's the new things, you know, like we could talk about driver aids in Formula One, all these tricks that make the drivers faster. They're not necessary. The cars have improved massively as well. So, you know, I was watching Le Mans, the film, and I loved that film because it was raw, it was visceral, it was basically take all the driver aids out, and that's what you're left with.
Well,
so I take my hat off to you. People like myself, I just buy the car. There's no way I come close to using the powers of the car. People like yourselves, you are the true, like, if anything, the race cars are built for people like you because you know how to race them, and I don't think I would ever come close. I mean, Kevin's a professional police instructed. You can basically do high-speed kind of pursuits, but I don't think that comes close to being a racing driver. That's another level.
No, but at the same time, you can say that I, as a race driver, cannot come close to what he does, because the discipline he has, the schedule he has, and the point he has on the list, let's say on the list, now probably in his head, right, that he has to do, it would take me like years to even understand what's going on.
You know what? So this is why I love this channel, because, you know, when I make those comments, I'm not actually like saying anything negative to any of us. You know, like we've got that.
We know
some of us are physically more athletic than others. Some of us, whatever. So the good thing about this community, we all appreciate and respect each other, and that's amazing. So, by the way, we'll keep on talking, Boris, but I think we may have found our guest for next week. What do you think?
I mean,
absolutely.
Okay, we've done it! Episode 14!
Right. He's so mysterious in the shadows, he's like the Stig almost.
No, we need to do it. We need to do it during the day, you know?
Okay, well...
Wandering out with my mask all day. This is my number 27, I guess, today.
Right.
Wow. So you know what? I'm going to shut up. There's so many things I could ask you, but what we can maybe do, if you are available to do a live stream, which would be similar to this time next week, we can cover a lot more detail then. But if there's anything you'd like to share with us now, the stage is yours.
Two things. So the thing number one is for you, I'm always available. That's number one. So you can put me out of the track. Amazing. Like today, I was in Spa, so I will be in Spa next week. But you can pull me out, so no worries whatsoever. You call me and say, Max has the live feed. I'm out. Okay, I'm out of work. So second thing is what I really want to discuss is this 9/11 comparing to Cayman story.
Yes.
So, I mean, this may cost me whatever because I speak in bad English now, but people can understand. But regarding this 9/11 and Cayman story, I cannot choose my side, and I will tell you why. because, for example, I'm about to get the Cayman GT4 in coming in like Wednesday, 15th of July, right? That's one thing. And regarding Cayman, I can tell you very shortly right now, but later we can go up to that game and then speak later, hopefully in some of the videos. But for example, my first Cayman experience came in 2006, okay? So I tried the Cayman, and that was the end of the world for me. So no supercars, race cars, nothing. I tried this car in 2006, and I was not able to drive any kind of Cayman later on. But in the meantime, I was driving so many 911, so many cars, and someone tells me, okay, what if the money is no issue, okay? What would you put in the garage? Okay, I will put the 911. It's a first of all, it's a icon you need to have, okay? If the money is no question, the 911 is the car you need to have. I don't care. You want Carrera, you want Carrera 4S, you want Targa, I don't care. 911 is a 911. You understand? But from how you say, physical experience of mine, I cannot imagine myself driving when it comes to money, okay, what you can pay, what you can have, what you are privileged to have or get a quote to. I would somehow put the money down to the Cayman. Somehow, I don't know why. I cannot say, because first of all, we don't have so much opportunities. I don't have so much opportunity to drive a Cayman GT4 MR or single car on the racetrack, like a race car. And I don't have so many opportunities to even have a gentleman driver or a client of one of the Porsche clubs, regardless is it Luxembourg, is it Bosnia, Serbia, whatever, that have the Cayman. So most of the time, I am basically in a 911, okay?
Right.
GT3 RS, the Targas, the whatever, okay?
Wow.
So I have not one point negative towards those cars. For me, they are present a perfect car. What I like to say, what I said the other day when I had one of the live interviews, whatever, I don't like to do 911 versus something. You understand? I don't like to do
So, by the way, Boris, it was Nate's idea, okay? Nothing to do with me. But we're going to... He did it. It's all his fault.
You blame me.
It's his fault.
Whatever. Hey, listen, I don't see the chat right now. So whatever is going on, I'm fine. And he's right. Whoever it is, he's right. Okay? So, I mean, the 911s, I don't want to put to the test, you know? I just don't want this car to be in a newspaper, in a internet, whatever, or TV, like 911 versus something. Don't do it, you know? Like, have time with this car, go out with this car, and just don't compare. Just enjoy it. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do the test. Okay.
Actually, Boris, I know you've been driving the car for a number of years. So can you comment on how the handling of 911s has changed? Because with the addition of more electronic stability controls, like, you know, when I was a child in 1980s, anyone who was like a rich stockbroker in the UK, there were so many people crashing these cars with the tail end spinning out. But that's very rare now because they've been controlled. So as a racing driver, can you talk about how the dynamics of the 911 has changed?
Well, when you go year to a year, the factory always wants to give you something better, okay? And the factory's main goal is to have as much as people possible to appreciate the product. So you need to step up the game, and you need to give whoever this guy is, not to go negative on someone who has no driving skills, to be able to enjoy the product. So I think the development went crazy. The cars became so much easier to drive. I bet you one thing: if you don't have a guy who ever had an experience with a Porsche or a powerful vehicle, he will be able to make 4 laps on the racetrack or somewhere, and to figure out how to drive the car. Not to drive maybe fast, not to make some crazy lap times, but this guy will feel the joy and say, oh my God, this is the best car in the world, okay? Finished. So from the production factory side, customer side, people side, it's all positive. But what we, let's say, are eager for is what I mentioned in my chat. I said, like, if Max changed his mind and goes from GT4 to anything else, it will be like a singer, okay? Something that can scare him to hell, and he comes home and says, oh, this is not good, but I love it, you know?
You are 100% correct, because I love the lines of the old 911. I saw one yesterday. The video that will come up next week will show you the old 911s I love. However, I know people that have driven them, and they say the handling it's old as well. It doesn't steer well, the brakes, and the Singer, to me, I mean, oh my God, that would be amazing.
I love the 993. I would love to have a 993 in my garage, but I just keep hearing all the time that it just drives so old compared to modern Porsches that it's almost not worth it. Almost.
Yeah, but I would rather add this and say, if you have this 993 Porsche, and someone tells you the Renault Clio, okay, from these years drives better, it actually does by the data. If you look at the data, if you look at your own feel in the car, or the Renault Megane, whatever, okay, it drives good, but it's at the point. That's the whole thing. Do you want yourself to enjoy the car? Do you want yourself to challenge yourself to the limits? Maybe this 993 will never reach the time of a saloon car available today to the broad people, masses, how you say, okay? Sorry for my bad English.
It's fantastic.
Like, it will give you every single thing you want from the car that you bought with your own money. You bought the 993, okay?
It's a very powerful thing you're saying, because we've got
favor for your life.
No, I think that's wonderful what you've said, because Kevin, as a child, he said he grew up wanting a 911, and I think, to be fair, in 20 years from now, those same children may be saying, I wish I could have a 911. They may not be saying, I wish I could have a Cayman, because the 911 is the icon. It's the flagship of the brand.
Yeah,
that's how it's been marketed. It's by design.
But it's got history as well. So the Cayman is like a very young thing. Yeah.
I agree.
Wow.
I want to also add like a question that I give sometimes to myself. Is the whole problem with us, who are X amount years old right now? So we all have driver licenses. I mean, I'm 35, okay? I don't know your age, guys, but you are this generation, okay? So now I wonder, there will be a human being, which I'm 100% sure, they'll say that there is no better car ever being produced and made since the 992. This is the best car ever. So you can take your 993s, 997s, 996 and throw it into the trash bin. Why? Because the 992 is the best car ever made by a company in the world.
Yes.
Not because, I mean, we know the truth, right? But they are like living it right now, and it's being promoted to them right now through the sources that we are trusting right now, which are social networks, people testing cars, buying very expensive cars, which I said the other day also, which make me a little bit mad and confused in the same way. I was like, the whole my life, since 2006, I was like, I would give everything for a Cayman, okay? Like we're talking about the base Cayman, not like GT4s, not like S, not like blah, 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 okay? Proper, real single Cayman, maybe put Carrera 20 wheels on it, 718, whatever, 4-cylinder turbo. So it's the best car in the world, right? So now, me being influenced by opening my Instagram, opening my YouTube, opening everything, I'm like, okay, I'm getting only a GT4. So the question is now, where does this end? We need to go back in our minds to be healthy and go back to reality and say, okay, I mean, there is a Bugatti Chiron Pur being tested at the Nürburgring. So where does our appreciation feel starts and ends?
I agree with you, Boris. I mean, Chris Harris said a few short years ago that the 987 base Cayman was the best car that you could buy, and he owned one, and he said that for a few years. You know, I'm sure he's moved on by now, but he said that for a long while, that the 987 base Cayman was the best car that you could buy. It was for sale.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I like what you said, Boris, is that I asked my son only yesterday. There was a Lamborghini Huracan, a picture that he's been drawing, and I said, if you could have the chance to buy any car, would you buy the Lamborghini? He said, no, I would get the 911 Turbo, but specifically the magazine on the table was the 992. So my son could end up, you know, if he could be doing a YouTube channel in 20 years saying, I'm going to buy a second-hand 992 Turbo. It's the best car ever.
And this comes back to a point that Boris is making as well, and I think, you know what, he's absolutely right, and he's nailed it. Because this is a thing about the generations that we're living in. Mm-hmm. So, you know, for us, I mean, you know, I'm 50. I know, Nate,
I'm 50.
I'm 25.
Okay, and now, you know, Boris is a few years younger than us, but we're still in that kind of that group of owners, drivers, enthusiasts that look at a particular tranche of cars that were made for that time. Now, like you say, Max, like my lads here, you know, the 997 ultimately, when my son is maybe my age, the 997 will potentially be what is the 993, but we alluded to earlier.
Well put.
Yeah, and now the best Porsche out there now is all of a sudden, you know, it was a 992, as Boris said. You know, so who knows? Who knows?
Right.
I just want to refer to one thing, only one thing. Do you remember when there was a test on the Top Gear late year? I don't know which year was it. And there is a big, massive slide of the 997 behind the competitor. What was it? I don't remember. I need to Google it. Maybe it was a Ferrari, maybe it was a Lamborghini or some other car, okay? So that power slide they produced of the 997 was basically taking the whole test to the level where there is no better engineering, no better car overall ever being produced in this world. And it's a 997. And you find yourself going now with your scooter or your car, driving around the car, going for the grocery store, and you see the 997 like, oh, it's a 997. Yeah. Good. Finish. Yeah. You understand?
Sure.
You don't go back. You don't appreciate all these moments. What happened? I had a massive opportunity that I had a friend. It was 2018 to 19, so like 1 year ago, whatever. I was working for Ligier, if you know the prototypes with the Le Mans, the LMP3s and LMP2s and whatever. So I was basically living 3 months in Dubai, and I was driving the Gulf Sports Car Championship there. So the friend of mine who was racing with me at the same time, in the same car, bought a 996 Porsche, which won the Le Mans and won the IMSA championship in the States or whatever. Wow. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh yeah, I want to sell this car, whatever, la la. I brought it here to Dubai. We fly it in. I want to sell it, and he had a test day, and he even raced for himself for one race. So he was like, would you like to try the car? So I'm like, me coming out of the, I don't know, Porsche Cup cars, whatever, and Cayman GT4s, you sit in this car, and you start to appreciate even the things you don't know that are born before you, or the things that people draw in Le Mans and these IMSA championships, and people call real race drivers, right? I mean, I hope we are real. I hope I'm real. I will last a couple of more years more. I sincerely do. But like, you know, all those heat, all those sweat in those cars and everything. And then after that, you look at the same road car on the street. and you would like give your left kidney just to have this car, just to appreciate all the history behind and everything. And I think now we are a little bit, I mean, not we, I don't want to say we because I don't want to push you guys into it, but like young generations, I'm not young, I'm 35, so my time is almost gone.
Younger than me.
Like right now, coming into the Porsche salon, okay, like a dealership, right? And they are looking to see the GT3 RS. I was there other day because of my car, right? And so there were some young people there asking for, can you see the GT3 RS, the new one? And they say, I'm sorry, I mean, we don't have it, right? We're not here yet. So they were like, oh, yeah, okay. But they passed the Spider. They passed the demo GT4, yellow one, with the black wheels, with the full equipment, carbon seats, everything. They passed over 3 Panamera shooting brakes, the Porsche Targa, and the demo brand new Targa, which just now was seen on Instagram. And I'm like, okay, I mean, if you don't appreciate the single Porsche Macan diesel from 4 years ago, I mean, maybe you're not supposed to be here, or like there is so much thing on the internet stuffing us with a thing where we come out across a 997 GT3 pure whatever red, okay, whatever wheels, whatever brakes, whatever, and we're like, oh, it's a 997. No, it's not. It's everything.
You are a very wise man, Boris, and I think you've made me realise that the way I look at the whole Porsche cars is that I think of it like a family, because I am so thankful to the Cayenne from back in the early 2000s for saving the company, and I love the fact that I can look at all these cars, and it's a bit like, if I had, my grandmother's no longer here, but when I was younger, my grandmother was big and she couldn't walk properly, and then there was the younger children, and that's like a family is all of these cars together. That's what makes the company stronger. So I think it's wonderful things that you're saying. We could keep talking. Yeah, we could keep talking forever. We've done almost 2 hours again. Yeah. It just feels like we could talk forever. So what I'd say. Forever. Okay, so Boris, I'll get your contact details later. There is going to be another live stream tomorrow. And I have to thank everyone that's featured on the live streams. And this wouldn't even be happening if Kevin hadn't reached out to me. So I have to always say the community here is what makes us stronger. A bit like what Boris said. It's not one individual. It's not the fact that Nate is our little mini superstar, even though he really is. Okay,
I'm just a guy.
No, but I love the fact that we all come together as one here. And Kevin, in actual fact, you didn't know this at the time, but you kind of did what Boris wanted. You weren't one of these 9/11 guys that said the Cayman is rubbish, blah blah blah. You were very honest. I
applaud you, Kevin.
Yeah.
I applaud you.
You know what? I didn't know what to expect today. I thought you were going to maybe really start saying how bad the Cayman is, but we're not like that here. We appreciate all the cars.
Yeah, no, not at all. And it comes back to the point. I know I've said it a number of times, and I'm probably sound like an old broken record. Guys, a Porsche is a Porsche. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to own them. It doesn't. I couldn't care less who's got what. A Porsche is a Porsche. If it's got that badge on it, I love it.
That's
simple
correct.
as that. Yeah. And it's fantastic having Boris on here, because got to get him on next week for sure.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. I just want to say, you know what? If you hate 911, and if someone hates GT4, I appreciate it so much. If you like other Porsche than those ones, it's not a problem. As long as you are happy, I will be happy with you. Absolutely. And as long as someone appreciates his car more than the other one, I love it. Someone says 996, oh my God, these lights, la la la. Do you understand in 2020 what it means to own a 996?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What it means, you have like a 996. End of story. You're like a king, Yeah. 997. You're more king. You're whatever. So never. I think people should never ever, if they love something, they should never push aside like, oh, I don't like this. Oh, it's bad. Or whatever. Okay, it's not bad, because if you say it's bad, it's rubbish. It's because you don't have it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the good thing
about to say something if I don't have it.
You're very wise for a 35-year-old, because I think as we've got a bit older, you know, when we say we don't have something else, it may just be because we can't afford it. And I think we're all natural people here, but you know, there are some people, because they can't afford something, they'll say, "Oh, I don't want it because it's rubbish." But actually, if they had the money, they'd probably buy that. You know, so. I actually think the 992 does look lovely. I don't even have a garage for my car, so when I say the car's wider, you know, I don't even have a garage to put my car into. So I do actually think Pinky Lie kind of changed my thinking. But I know you didn't like the rear of the 992. I think the 992 is the most beautiful modern Porsche. And then apart from that, I go and look at the older cars, but then it's the engines that I think has changed a bit. So the Singer, something like the Singer, just wins for me because it's got everything that I look for.
Okay, my ranking from the modern cars, the 993 hands down is the most beautiful of the modern Porsches to me. 997 of the 911s, pardon me. 997 is close. 996 is up there, and it's any of those three in any order with those three, as far as I'm concerned. But the 993 is the winner of the modern Porsches.
Just to say one thing, I know we mentioned it. You mentioned it, Paul, about the headlights on the 996, the fried egg headlights. That I know that wasn't a Pinky Lie design, by the way. The guy in charge before Pinky was Harm Legay or something. I forget his exact name, but the fried egg headlights was before Pinky's time. So even though he did the 996, the headlights carried over.
Interesting.
Understood.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay, so Boris, thank you so much. So this is going to be absolutely awesome.
All right.
Episode
We have
14.
the man in the iron mask back again.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I have the iron one, but this one is a pure Chinese 50-pack medicine one.
Okay.
So it's like all day, every day. Just like rolling on.
Understood.
Wow.
Please come back to us.
Stay
Boss.
safe. Stay
Yes.
safe for us. Got to come
Always.
back. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, thank you so much. So, thanks for everyone for watching episode 13.
Guys.
Episode 14 is with Boris. It's going to be awesome. Well, I don't even know what it will just be called. Porsche. Boris Talks Porsche. And I'm going to have to look you up on YouTube now and Google to find out a professional racing driver. Oh my God, you know, this is amazing. Who would have thought this could have happened? It's unbelievable. Thank you everyone that's here. Thank you so much everyone. I'm going to click the button now. It's been awesome, and we all get to do this again next week. So thank you so much for joining us. Enjoying life in cars to the max. See you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye bye.